Welcome to this World Satsanga on the 25th of June 2024 in conjunction with Kevin Moore and The Moore Show. And as usual, I encourage you to visit his YouTube site, The Kevin Moore Show, where he investigates lots of different ways in which people connect with the greater reality, and particularly his show they call us channelers, which looks at all the different people, all the different qualities and different ways in which they connect with the greater reality and source. This lecture is based upon the things that we experience as a function of being high frequency, or being a high frequency individual, or being spiritual. One of the things that we notice a lot if we're high frequency is that there's an awful lot of people, a lot of them I will classify as being backfill people, but I have to observe them and link in with them first before I can classify an individual soul within a body as a backfill person, has been angry, frustrated, materialistic, selfish, and gossiping, and not particularly interested in how to look after their bodies as well, or what they're eating. They tend to maybe even drink too much, smoke too much, eat preserved food from supermarkets, and they also tend to like to take recreational drugs. So we have a number of individuals who are low frequency, and we tend to spot those. We tend to notice them more if we're higher frequency. But moreover, one of the things that we tend to experience more is that these individuals get angry in our presence. Now, what does that mean? Or how does that happen? When low frequency individuals are in the presence of high frequency individuals, they tend to be naturally out of harmony with us because our frequency levels are higher than theirs, which is clear. Now, their souls, whether they're backfill souls, which are the souls in between the human soul and the animal soul, who are simply experiencing, learning and evolving. But from their perspective and from the energetic perspective, they are different to us and we are different to them. And from let's say a subconscious perspective, they feel that there is a disharmony between us, and that is manifest in anger, distrust, dislike, moreover, jealousy, even more so, and a materialistic desire to be better than anybody else by having, let's say, better houses, better income, better status, and all these different things. Desire for expensive vehicles, desires for expensive houses, desire for expensive pastimes, desire for status. And even if they don't have the material wealth, there is a level of status that they want to achieve by being better than somebody or more aggressive than somebody. So from our perspective, when we're in their presence, or they're in our presence, there is an unconscious desire not to like us, or to maybe even pick a fight for us, or pick a fight with us. And so we have to be very careful when we're higher frequency of how we interact with people. And in some instances, we have to sort of blend in with them. And this doesn't mean we collude with them. It simply means we start to think, behave and act in a way where we're analysing the interaction with these individuals or the environment that they're in, and we work in a way where we operate in a more neutral way, where we're not trying to annoy them, even if it's by accident. We don't enter into a conversation which is collusion, where we agree with them, or we try to expand the agreement by trying to make them pleased with us, for example. We simply interact with them in a neutral way that isn't going to incur any negative feeling from them, or aggressive feelings, or uncomfortableness with us. So in effect, we try to become part of the background. So being a high frequency person means that we need to be in a constant state of self-analysis as to how we're interacting with individuals, or the circumstances that we find ourselves with individuals within particular environments. But we also need to understand how, if we, for example, enter into a conversation with them that is going to lead into collusion or is going to lead into a negative response from them, that we need to be able to know how to do a U-turn or deflect from the subject matter that is causing the aggressive thought process in the first place. So as high frequency individuals, we are always looking at ourselves and always looking at others and interacting with them. Now, you might think that this is very hard work. Well, it is. We are always trying to think in a considered way, answer in a considered way, and do things in a considered way. We think about how we interact with the environment. We think about how we interact with other individuals. We think about how we interact with those individuals we have relationships with. We think about how we interact with those animals that are part of the environment as well, the flora and the fauna. We would also find that certain things that the average individual would be quite distasteful to us. For instance, dropping cigarette ends out of the car windows, dropping sweet wrappers on the floor, throwing McDonald's wrappers out of the car window in country lanes. Even people who are builders or workers take rubbish out into country lanes and dump it in country lanes. They've had to drive there to do this, and instead of them going to the proper recycling yard. They still have to do the driving. It's just that they're being very lazy and not going to the reclamation centre, or they don't want to pay for the licence to drop commercial waste, which could be things like wood or plaster or other building materials such as bricks, concrete, cement, sand, etc. So you start to find that individuals who are low frequency around you, you tend to see what's happening. Now, if you see somebody, for example, do something distasteful like drop litter, you could argue that you could say to them, by the way, you've just dropped some litter. Do you know you've done that? With these individuals who are low frequency than yourself, you're more likely to end up in an argument than not into an argument. So you're better off, if you see this happening, just pick the litter up and put it into the local rubbish bin or trash can, rather than trying to persuade somebody that they've done something wrong. They won't see it that way because they're low frequency. They're very selfish individuals behaving in a selfish way with a selfish thought process and selfish actions associated with their frequential level. Also, when you're a higher frequency, you tend to find that you're ignored, by and large, by those individuals who are of a lower frequency. Now, a good example of this is that most people don't understand that the spiritual or third eye, the perceptual eye, or the mind's eye, is used as a shall I say, a calibration function with what we see with the physical eye. Now, individuals who are high frequency will see things with their perceptual vision in their mind's eye, but also they may also see things that are overlaid in their physical vision as well. So they will be observing things both from a spiritual vision perspective and a gross physical vision perspective as well. So, for example, if you're interacting within a shop, for example, and you need to be served by somebody, if you can stand there and wait to be served, maybe you'll be ignored. And you'll think, oh, okay, maybe they haven't seen me. Then you might be ignored again as somebody else comes in and gets served before you. And you think, maybe they haven't seen me. And then when you start to get frustrated with maybe somebody else starts to be considered to be served before you, you start to realise that this isn't right, and you start to lose your temper slightly. And this loss of temper allows you to drop down the frequencies. And I'm not suggesting you do this, by the way, but it means that as you drop down the frequencies, you become part of the perceptual landscape, or you drop into the perceptual range of the individual who should be serving you. And then you might get the response, oh, sorry, I didn't see you. And you get this when you're driving your car, or if you're cycling, I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry I didn't see you. It's because they don't see you. In effect, they only see what their perceptual vision allows them to see, which is basically low frequency, which is basically gross physical. So when you're walking in the street and people just bump into you and they say, oh, sorry, my friend, I didn't see you. They may use the words, sorry, mate, I didn't see you. It's because they didn't see you. So just say, that's okay, don't worry about it. Or start to observe people who are walking in a way where they're clearly not going to see you and they're going to bump into you. And just change your walking direction slightly so that they don't bump into you. So also be aware that when you're crossing the road, for example, you may be even using a zebra crossing or a light space system to allow you to walk across a busy street. Remember, even if the lights are on green, there are individuals who are driving who ignore the lights because they're low frequency and they don't think that the rules apply to them. They think that they can break the rules because some of their leaders, for example, break the rules, and because they feel that they're a higher status, they can do whatever they like. And so individuals of low frequency follow low frequency individuals who are in places of authority or position. So just be aware that even when you're walking across the road, that people won't see you. When you're in your car, you're driving, they may cut you up because they don't see you. So don't get annoyed and angry with them. Moreover, be aware of your frequential status, and don't get an ego with it. But moreover, use it as another sense, another way of navigating around your environment, so that you can interact with individuals in different circumstances within the environment that those circumstances are part of, and realize that we have to be more aware and awake now more than ever than we used to. So if you're a high frequency person, you're having to do more work when you interact with the environment and people within the environment and those circumstances than those individuals who are low frequency, because they're only seeing things in, let's call it in a state of volume. I'm not going to call it 3 dimensions because that starts to confuse people, because we exist in a composite of 3 sets of frequencies that creates the gross physical. The term 3 dimensions basically is a metric for height, width, and depth, which gives us volume. Not dimensions as in full dimensions, as in the structure of the multiverse. And because you're interacting in a different way, you're using your perceptual vision or your intuition, your clairsentience, along with your clairvoyance, you are able to navigate in a more alert, aware, and awake way. So don't get worried about these individuals who push in front of you in queues or don't see you, or think that they can do things because they don't see you. Moreover, just nod wisely and realize that it's hard work being a high frequency individual, and you have to compensate for those souls who are unfortunately still a low frequency. And although they're evolving as you're evolving, they're a little bit behind you. And just consider them as being simply souls who are working hard to navigate through their incarnation in a low frequency environment where they've got individualized free will, and that you can help them by not interacting with them and giving them a chance of becoming more negative, because they feel this disharmony energetically and therefore subconsciously between you and them. So as a high frequency individual, you're working 2 or 3 times harder than a lower frequency individual who's only thinking of themselves, whereas you're thinking of and working around and navigating around and interacting around everybody. Basically, you're having to think for everybody, and this is very important. You're thinking for everybody, so you're trying not to get into any collusion or any low frequency thoughts, behaviors, and actions, and so you're helping them evolve, because you're not allowing them to drop further by entering into these karmic functions of collusion, materialism, selfishness, jealousness, etc. So your mere lack of interaction with them, or interacting with them in a careful and thoughtful way, in a mindful way, helps them as well as it helps you. So this is one of the challenges we have as high frequency individuals, is that we have to think for others as well as ourselves, because those others are thinking of themselves and not for others. So in this way, we're being of service, but the thing to do is to do it in a knowledgeable way, meaningful way, and not an egotistical way. Okay, let's move on to the questions and answers session. Well, welcome everybody to the June Satsanga, June 2024. Actually, this is probably the 13th year we've held the Satsanga. So although the books are cover the first 10 years, we're in the 13th year now, which is quite an amazing thing to realize. Okay, so I've got some prior questions first. I'm going to go through these quite quickly, and then we can go on to the other questions here. Now, don't forget, if we don't get through all the questions in the time, because we've got 40 minutes, I'll answer the questions offline and then add them into the recording, so it'll seem like it's all one recording when we upload them to YouTube. So from Germania's first question: is astrology implemented to understand our inner nature and our life plan, known and practiced on other planets of our galaxies? So from our brothers, alien brothers. In my understanding, astrology is only something we use on Earth. Lots of the other spacefaring civilizations, incarnate civilizations, they are usually a higher frequency, even if they're in the third frequency level, like the gross physical, they understand more, so they don't need to have these references to various different metaphoric levels of description to enable them to understand. So the answer is no. In Italy, churches, with the exception of Christmas and weddings, are attended only by elderly people. When they die, churches will remain beautiful but empty. Is the Vatican's power as a result of this destined to fail in the near future? It's very likely, actually, that probably in the next between 50 and 150 years, we will start to see the understanding of who and what we are become more prominent and more dominant. And so as a result of that, the need for religion will start to disappear, because we'll start to be more connected as we become a higher frequency. And as we become a higher frequency, we start to know who we are. And therefore, the teachings associated with the original leaders of what we now call various different religions will start to be recognized for what it was: the understanding of how to remain connected whilst in a low frequency environment. So the need for the religious context will go. Although let's say the heritage of them will be maintained to show how we've gone from being in a level of full understanding to no understanding to understanding by let's say Chinese whispers, which is basically what religion ends up being at the end of the day after all these thousands of years, to what we will currently understand, which is more of almost a scientific understanding. So that's where we're going to go. I got a bunch of questions from Ulla here. Elder says, you said that thought is energy, and energy is a form of state of being, free from form. Energy is the intention behind the intention for something to exist. That's from the Origin Speaks. So the question is, how is thought given form at different levels of existence? Does the process of creation by sentient beings and entities differ in different environments? For instance, in the gross physical plane, frequency levels 1 to 3, Earth life, where we create things like a house using manual labor and machinery to make forms out of physical materials. 2, the astral plane, where our energy templates are from 4 to 7. We create our gross physical form. For example, Barbara Brennan in Hands of Light calls the 5th layer of the aura the etheric template, because it contains all the forms that exist in the physical plane in a blueprint or template form. And another example of this would be that how to compare a sphere is creating an elucidating geometry to the way one is creating in etheric space. In Euclidean geometry, to create a sphere, one first defines a point. A radius drawn out from that point in all 3 dimensions will create the surface of the sphere. However, in etheric space, which one might call negative space, to form a sphere, the opposite takes place. An infinite number of planes come from all the directions and fill the space, except from the spherical area of the space left empty. This defines the sphere. It is the area not filled by these planes that meet each other and create that then defines the empty space, empty spherical spaces is true. From my understanding, it's not that simple. Basically, everything is created as a function of space, occupying space at different frequential levels, and depending upon the location of that space and the collection of the emphasis of form in that space depends upon whether or not something is created. And so to say that all forms exist in a physical plane, the blueprint at one level, is actually incorrect. It seems to me that, and a number of different things I've noticed with Barbara's work, is that she seems to have seen one thing and not the rest of it. And that happens a lot with spiritual people or metaphysical people. We see a glimpse of something and we think that's it, when actually it's a much wider, bigger picture. So my understanding is that the form associated with the gross physical is a function of the first three frequencies. That is supported by the same level of form, but at higher frequencies in other frequency levels. For instance, the astral levels, which are 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we've got conceptual levels, which are really the next level up, which is 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And so the Hindus understood this because they actually classify these things as causal levels, and they cause the gross physical. If you think about it, the word causal is quite important. So to say that one thing is all collected in one location is actually, from a frequential level, is actually quite wrong. It's a cumulative effect that creates everything. It's just that from our perspective in this low frequency, it appears to coalesce in the gross physical. Okay, well, I hope that helps. There's another part here. An example would be, okay, we get that. Okay, example 2, where Besant, Annie Besant, and Lebetta, thought forms book PDF attached, saw different thought forms created by music by different composers. I can't even say this word. Gounod versus Wagner examples. And example, well, Carl Jung said archetypes exist in the collective unconscious, where we can tap into the Great Mother, Trickster, Eternal Youth, etc. At what frequency level does the collective unconscious exist? Is it on all levels from frequency bands 4 to 7? The collective consciousness exists in all levels, full stop, because the collective consciousness is part of the collective sentience. It's just that we, in this low frequency, can only access that which is part of or local to ourselves, because we have a significantly lower communicative bandwidth. If we were to increase our communicative bandwidth to that of, for instance, the 7th or 8th frequency level associated with the gross physical, with the physical universe, we would start to understand that actually it is everywhere. It's just that rather than having a radio receiver tuned into one particular channel, one very narrow band channel, which is what we are a radio receiver receiving everything at once. And that means that it's not specifically in one frequency level or one location within a frequency level, it's everywhere. And so even frequency level 1, which is the frequency that the base or root chakra is connected to, is also part of the collective. And we can, if we knew what we were doing, connect with everything from that particular frequency level. Another question here. 3, multiverse. Full dimension 5, and there's a table associated with this, has the function of thought given form creation, where desire creates intention, which creates thought, which creates tangible and intangible forms. How is this different from the physical universe level forms? It's difficult to explain in our terms. In fact, we probably can't explain it in our terms. So we don't have the capacity to understand at this frequential level, because we don't have the processing power, because we're linear thinking because of the frequencies. Think of it like an old-fashioned computer processor from the 1970s, taking a week to do a calculation, whereas now it can do it in nanoseconds. This is why we can't understand this sort of stuff. So
at these frequency levels, for instance, full dimension 5, we will end up being able to create things instantaneously in a way which is consistent to the environments, the universal environments that are in full dimension 5. And so thought is given creation by intention, which is in turn given creation by desire, and then the action comes out of it. So it's much it's unbelievably difficult to explain, and I can't explain it either. So I think that it's best to say that there are some things that we know exist, but we can't explain them, and that's progress. You know, we go through that in everything we experience on this planet right now. That which was unexplainable is now explainable. So that which is unexplainable now will be explainable later, hopefully when we increase our level of frequency. Last question from Ella. Omniverse, from the origins, structure, space, where we exist and new creation takes place through creator entities versus non-structure space, where no form exists. Presumably no creations exist until we go there and make it so. Non-structured space is something that is discovered, it's clearly always there. It's not discovered. It's just me discovering it as a function of the latest book I've just finished called the Beyond the Origin and the Bed Space Odyssey. And structured space is an aberration in non-structured space, which is created as a function of potential. And the function of where the function of potential comes from, I don't know, but it seems to be that potential, if any potential is there in non-structured space, it has the capability of creating something or an aberration, which in our instance became structured space, which is the space and the energy associated with it that gave the possibility of the creation of sentience, and hence event space, hence the origin, and hence other volumes of sentience. So in essence, in non-structured space, nothing is created because there's nothing there. Only things that are within structured space can be created because that has structure. Okay, well, I hope that answers those questions. Right, let's go to the very start then. So we've got Jagdot's questions. The percentage of sentience, does it vary with age? For children under 7 have less percentage sentience, and does it increase as they grow? No, we incarnate with a percentage of sentience which stays with us. In fact, is more likely to stay with us across a number of different incarnations. It only increases as a function of our evolution, our evolutionary progression. So when we evolve in between incarnations, then there's a possibility it might increase by 0.01% or 0.05%, for example. So when we are incarnate, we incarnate with a percentage of sentience, and that stays with us. Okay. Number 2 from Jagdat. When it is said purify mind and senses by Kriya Yoga, all our memories and experiences are still there, only they go into the background and we are more in the now moment. The more we purify mind and senses, does the percentage of sentience also increase? Please explain, advise, or expand your comments. It doesn't expand our sentience. It increases our ability to detach from this particular focus of our sentience, allowing us to focus on higher levels of frequency and therefore the associated environments that are there. So we are no longer focused on the limitations of being in the gross physical or structured space of any sort in the physical universe. So it doesn't increase. It just allows us to increase our processor speed, so we start to be able to increase our communicative bandwidth, so we're able to experience more as a result of it. Okay, next question. Question 3. When a true energetic self is in, for example, the 5th full dimension, how and what determines for it to move into the next, that is the 6th dimension? Is it a higher being or entities that guide it through the 6th dimension? Or does it automatically get integrated into the 6th dimension because it is having completed an evolutionary step or content of the 5th dimension? How does the test know there is a higher dimension to go to? All true energetic selves or higher souls or oversouls or godheads, all those words mean the same thing, understand there is an evolutionary cycle to go through, and that includes accessing and experiencing all the circumstances and the potential opportunities for creation and experience within all the different universes within the multiverse. So that multiverse is created through the use of an isolation of various aspects of 4 dimensions. When we evolve, or when our higher self evolves through these different frequencies, it does so through evolution, and it's an automatic function. It's not actually I decide to go into this frequency level because I feel I've evolved enough. When we evolve to a certain level, we no longer belong in the level before it. So it's a bit like think of it like a ping pong ball rising to the surface of the water. It has no choice but to rise to the surface of the water, and that's what happens with us. As we evolve, we naturally move into the next level associated with our evolution level. Okay, a question from Eliza here. I've noticed some time glitches lately, like skipping forwards in time suddenly. Have you noticed this, and how would you explain this? That is potentially something that you've experienced yourself in isolation to others. And that is because you will have been, in some instance, or some instances, temporarily a higher frequency and in an area of locally high frequency as well. And when that happens, the concept of time doesn't exist. We start to experience things in the now. So you may have experienced something suddenly fast forwarding or suddenly rewinding or suddenly going sideways because you're a higher frequency in a higher frequency environment. It's maintained and you're there long enough to be able to experience something. Now, that experience might be seconds, or it could be a bit longer. But the thing is, when you start to question it or wonder what's going on, there is a level of disbelief happening, which brings us down the frequencies, and then we drop out of it. So it's a very interesting explanation. Again, I've mentioned it a number of times. There's a book called Twidders by one of the Ozark Mountain Publishing authors, and that book explains similar things. And I can't remember the author's name, so I'll have to apologize for that. I've even met the lady, which is a bit embarrassing. But basically, go and find that book, Twidders. It's on Amazon, and it's by Ozark Mountain Publishing, and it's by a lady who notices all these little time slips, so to speak. Okay, one from Daniel. What are some of the strategies and best ways and practices of dealing with tragedies, catastrophic events, and catastrophes? Recently, we had a tornado and straight line winds come through northern Minnesota in the United States of America, which is somewhat of a rare occurrence. It affected our property and did some damage, and yet to the homes and property of north and south of us, there was no damage or very little damage. We used the protection, meditation, and prayers and our psychic shield for our people, the properties and places and things and the earth almost on a daily basis with a small group of people. So how are we to reconcile this catastrophic event and damage as we are recovering, cleaning up, fixing and repairing the property, buildings, vehicles, and things? We seem to see that this was a good thing, and things we seem to see that this will be a good thing, and will be a far better future in the future. As a result of this experience, our property and buildings will be more fortified and capable of withstanding tornadoes and straight line winds. We will be better prepared. Any comments on what we could have done and how we could have anticipated this? Or are we doing enough and see this experience as valuable? Should we be grateful? What is the best way to experience these traumatic events? I also had some friends in a place called Little Flock in Arkansas, and they experienced about seven tornadoes, and that's basically completely trashed one of their buildings, completely ruined a couple of acres of land that they had, and they experienced damage to vehicles, and trees landed on the house, and the house was just about livable from what I can gather. It's something that we have to live in, unfortunately. Part of the environment that we live in, and one of the things we agree to subconsciously, is the recognition of there could be adverse weather conditions, and certainly in Arkansas it's classified as Tornado Alley, and there's other locations in the US as well, and there's other locations in other parts of the world. And we tend to forget sometimes that some of these quite extreme weather conditions can happen until they happen to us, and we're either lucky or unlucky. So my feeling is that we use it as a way of creating or recreating communion. That means if we're all in trouble, or some of us are in trouble and some of us aren't in our community, we all get together to help each other. And this creates a community spirit, and a feeling of being in communion again. Even if it didn't affect us, it affected somebody else. So the objective is to help each other. So the thing is to use these events not as a, well, obviously they're very difficult for us to live through, and they're very sort of challenging in terms of us having to repair vehicles, repair or claim on insurance or rebuild homes, these sorts of things, without doubt. But it should be used as a way, in a positive way, which is to help rebuild community and help each other out. We're on Earth to help each other out, not go against each other or try and be better than each other. And these events, even with wars or floods or famines or fires, or tsunamis, all these different natural events are really here to help us work together in a better and a more neutral way, which is benefiting all of us and helping us to recover from difficult situations. And in doing so, we think more of each other and we respect each other more. And so we can turn a very difficult situation into a very positive thing. Okay, Alejandra has asked a question. If this is the third time that the evolutionary cycle of the multiverse has restarted, is this the first time that the lowest frequencies have been manifested in source entity 1? Or is the pattern repeating and also evolving? Are these cycles, the expansions and contractions, taking longer each time as the origin progresses and evolves? Well, the evolutionary cycle is specific in our instance to source entity 1 and its occupation of a certain volume of space with its sentience and its division of that space into the half of being itself, half being the multiverse, and the further division of some of its sentience, or countless trillions of small aspects of its sentience, to investigate, experience, learn, and evolve that volume of space. My understanding is that this is the third iteration, and as we go through each iteration, it gets faster and faster and faster. So the second iteration or second evolutionary cycle was faster than the first, and the third was faster than the second, significantly. And when we go into the next evolutionary cycle, it'll be faster than the third. And that's because of the way we experience, learn, and subsequently evolve and are able to cope with various different variations of or theme changes associated with the multiversal environment or whatever that ends up being that the source entity adopts as it goes through each different evolutionary cycle, and the way it chooses to individualize its sentience and compartmentalize the space its sentience occupies. So my understanding is that we'll end up with an evolutionary cycle which is in billionths of a nanosecond at some point. So it'll only get faster. Next question. Oops. How does the gravity black hole in India, the Indian Ocean geoid low, affect the frequencies and vibrations of that area? What is the energetic potentiality of it all? I don't understand. I don't know about a gravity black hole. We should have varying levels of gravity on the Earth, depending upon the density of the Earth, the local frequency of the Earth, and of course it's the effects the moon has, because the moon will have an effect on the localized gravity. The closer the moon gets, the more we're affected. So that's why we have high and low tides, because there's less gravity where the moon's closest to the Earth, and we have lower tides when the moon is furthest away from the Earth. So in effect, there's a lot of different physical functions that creates a change in the gravity. So I don't know about the gravity black hole at all, and I'm not feeling there's anything detrimental about it at all, other than it being a normal function of the heavenly bodies, in our case the moon in its location, and the Earth and the moon in its location within the Milky Way, and the Milky Way's location within the overall space that is the physical universe. Right, next question. Why would it be more useful to move the Earth to where it is now? Is it true that it was in a system with two suns, so it was not ever really dark? Where is the system located? I'm not aware the Earth's moved. It wouldn't surprise me if it's moved. It wouldn't surprise me if it was moved into a different location. It wouldn't surprise me if it was moved again. Where it is or how many suns it had is immaterial. But the only reason why the Earth might move or might be moved by the curators, for example, would be if it was still being of significant importance from the individualized evolutionary perspective, with having free will, and there was a distinct possibility to certainty that our sun was going to go supernova. And that would probably cause a reboot in civilization as well. So the Earth would be moved, but the incarnate souls or aspects would move out, basically, and so there wouldn't be a civilization, and civilization would have to restart if it was moved again, because from the perspective of moving a planet, physically it's difficult, but energetically it's not. We could just change the focus of space and effectively dissolve it and reintegrate it somewhere else. Not specifically teleportation, but really changing the focus of physicality, of quantum physicality, by using the sentience. But you need to have a significant level of sentience to be able to do that, and that's where the creators would come in. Next question from Eliza. When we go up a frequency, we refer to it as ascension. Do entities in the fifth frequency experience ascension as well? Is the process similar or different to ours? No, when we're in the physical universe, we're all working within the physical universe, and depending upon our desire to enter into incarnation at a different location or different frequency, depends where we go to. However, when we're at that level, we work at that level, and we do our best to experience, learn, and evolve at that level, which means we have the potential to move up the frequencies from that level onwards. So yeah, an entity that's in the fifth could aspire to work on themselves and move into the sixth, or achieve or get close to the sixth. An entity in the eighth could aspire to work on themselves and do the best they can to move into the ninth frequency at some point in the incarnation. But moving up the frequencies, specifically from our level, is particularly difficult, because we're so distracted by gross physical thoughts, behaviors, and actions that it stops us from, things like materialism, for example, and desire, and wealth, and status, and ego. These are things that hold us back, and it's easier to go down the frequencies than it is to go up. But these entities in the higher frequencies, it would be easier for them to go up in the frequencies than it is for us to do it. So, okay, so Elijah's just added on to the question: as above, so below. Could this mean that just as we are growing in consciousness to realize more of the greater reality, beings in a higher frequency are also doing the same? Absolutely. And don't forget, these beings in higher frequencies, or I should say entities in higher frequencies, are usually, us, for example. We would have done the same thing, and we will do the same thing. So although we're right now focused on being in a body which is on the earth, having individualized free will, in the next incarnation, we might be in the seventh frequency, enjoying a body which is mainly energetic, but still has a level of physicality associated with the seventh frequency level, that we understand who and what we are, and we can choose to leave that body whenever we want to. So yes, it's exactly the same. It's just a different starting point, basically. Daniel's asked again, why the weather changes? Will the world act better soon? Should all the borders be open? Right, weather changes. Most of the weather changes are based upon changes in the axis, the Earth's axis, and how it rotates. How that change in axis affects the distance or the effect of the moon on the surface of the planet. There's also the magnetic pole shift, which is a function, a known physical function, happens about every 12.5 to 13,000 years, and that affects the geomagnetic changes affect the weather as well. So everything is affected, and that's why. And because we're close to a change, we're really close to a geomagnetic change, where the hardcore within the molten aspect of the Earth is rotating. that will change the magnetic field from north to south and south to north, and that affects the weather big time. So will the world act better soon? Not yet. We still need to have and start to adopt and want to adopt a level of individualized governance that is above and beyond, collectively above and beyond having individuals govern us. So that will take some time yet. We need to slowly and collectively come into an aha moment where we will be able to look after ourselves better than our leaders. Should all borders be open? Absolutely. We're all souls in human beings. There's no borders. There's no borders in the energetic, only at any evolutionary level. So all borders should be open. We're just about, and how are we doing, up or down? We're just about holding our own right now. In fact, because there are various different levels of progression and understanding with people, and even some leaders are starting to think in a better way, that we are starting to hold our ground. So I do feel encouraged at this point. Okay, so another question from Elijah just said Twidders is by Anita Holmes. That's it. That's the lady. Lovely lady, a real down-to-earth individual. So no nonsense with her, no spiritual nonsense. It's just what she's observed and what she's gained from other people who've experienced these things as well. So Anita Holmes, yeah, check out the book. It's really worthwhile looking at. Okay, we're down to the last. Where are we? Down to the last few minutes. So I need to make sure that we know where we are. Okay, that's the 7 minutes. Daniel asks, does the Om have more sentience and ability than the source, and why? I don't know. I've not asked that question ever before. Do the Om have more sentience and ability than the source? They are at that level, from my understanding, although they are significantly smaller in volume. So you could argue that the percentage ratio of sentience versus volume is in their favor. But in terms of their sentience, no, they're not more than a source entity, or not by much, or not by much less. They are similar, but they're just a different size. And the abilities, well, basically they don't really get involved with the evolutionary cycle. So that's the pure Om, and the non-captive Om are fairly similar. But they don't want to get involved, or a lot of them don't want to get involved in creativity either, because that creates responsibility. They just want to be. In fact, in the Beyond the Origin, even the Om end up being deciding to enter into communion with the Origin, as the Origin's sentience occupies all the structured space. So even the Om become the Origin again. So what is the most sentient you ever worked with? What was that like? It's difficult to say, because when working with the Origin or the Om or the other source entities, you don't get access to all of it. You get access to what you can cope with. It's a bit like tapping into the mains. There's no point in putting a battery-driven toy into 240 volts. It just blow up. And that's the same with lower volumes of sentience connecting with higher volumes of sentience. So everything I've experienced is based upon my capacity to maintain the connection and not lose my marbles, basically. So or blow up. So from that perspective, I would say that it's usually equal to mine, plus or minus a few percent. Let's put it that way. That's the best way to explain it. Eliza's got another question. Can you give us a few signs we can look out for to know when we're getting close to being one with Source? Is it feeling more ethereal than physical, feeling more love flowing through us? We won't enter into full communion as such with Source until our true energetic self does so as a function of evolution. But we can connect with Source and feel a level of connectivity which could give us the feeling of being in communion, because actually we are in communion, but in a limited sort of way, from the perspective of, we would just be absorbed, and we wouldn't have any individuality. We went into full communion with Source. So it's The best way to explain is just expansivity, knowing of everything, knowledge of everything, no limitations, no feeling of not knowing anything because everything is known. Being everywhere at once. That's the only way I can describe it. And it's not something that can be described. But when you start to feel that level of connectivity, or some minute, some nanoscopic part of it, you know. And I suppose the communion side is the best way to describe the love aspect, because love is just a human term, but the communion side is probably the best way to explain it. We've got 3.5 minutes left, so I'm going to just try and answer 2 more questions. What is the importance of what we experience here in the lowest frequencies and in influence, or how it affects in the higher frequencies? Basically, the importance of us being here is to experience challenges associated with not having the same level of communicative ability and functionality that we normally enjoy in the higher frequencies. And it's sort of us trying to work out how to navigate around it, basically, and how to work with it, and how to come back, and how to detach from the need or the desire to come back. We had to detach from being in the physical, because karma is about being addicted to being in the physical. So in effect, it's a way of, like scuba diving or deep sea diving. You experience some sensory deprivation quite significantly when the deeper you go. But when you come back up again, you've experienced something and you've learned as a result of that, and probably evolved. And that's the same thing. So it affects us in the higher frequencies, or I should say our true energetic self in the higher frequencies, as a function of what we've experienced by being in the low frequencies. Okay, so next one's from Daniel. If more souls could understand your teachings, there would be a massive shift. Well, thank you very much for that. I mean, I'm not going to get an ego on that, because it's a lifetime's dedicated mission, and there's a lot of other people doing the same thing as well. So we have to collectively help each other to help understand. And you people on the end of this this Zoom conference now, you're all part of this dissemination of important information. So from that perspective, you're assisting in a massive shift, and it will happen, but it won't happen instantaneously. It'll happen bit by bit by bit by bit, and then it'll start to accelerate. So we're right at the very start of a logarithmic function, which trundles along the bottom of the graph for a long time and slowly starts to move up. But without that start point, and without people like you, the shift won't happen. And without other individuals doing a similar thing, it won't happen either. Okay, everybody. Well, I think the best thing to do is to finish now, because we've only got less than a minute left. Thank you very much for your questions. I'm thanking everybody who couldn't turn up but did send questions in. Again, thank you for limiting the number of questions so that everybody else can have a question as well. And I'm looking forward to working with you all in July. So, namaste to you all, and do the best you can do to be of service, and of course to lead by example. Namaste to you all.
Welcome to this meditation on helping to maintain your high frequency state and not be affected by those around you who are not as evolved as yourselves, and therefore not as high frequency as you. Let's adopt the usual posture, sitting in a straight backed chair with your feet flat on the ground. Small of your back towards the back of the chair, your spine straight up, your neck aligned with your spine, your hands placed palm uppermost on your upper thighs, and your eyes closed and gently focused on the spiritual or third eye, which is in between the 2 eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And I want you to just consider maintaining your high frequency, and using the exercise of opening the chakras. Being of service is high frequency. Giving the considered response, giving yourself time to think and understand the questions you're being asked to respond to, is a high frequency response. Meditating is a high frequency response. Being aware of other people's requirements, working around them, helping them to help themselves, is a high frequency response. Being considerate for others is a high frequency response. Looking after animals is a high frequency response. Looking after the environment, plants, trees, grasses, flowers, ferns, etc. is a high frequency response. Not dropping litter is a high frequency response. Not polluting is a high frequency response. Recycling properly is a high frequency response. So all of these different thought processes, and there's many, many more, this isn't exhaustive, helps you maintain your high frequency. So just consider for a moment, before we start to go through the exercise of opening the chakras, which is a functional way of maintaining a high frequency, above and beyond the thought processes, the desires, intentions, thoughts and actions that create high frequency responses and maintain our high frequency, is what we need to do now. So just think about the things that you can do. Think about how you can maintain your high frequency by not dropping the sweep wrapper out of the car window. If you smoke, you can stop smoking, stop polluting your lungs. If you drink alcohol, drink it in a significant level of moderation compared to what you do now. Say good morning to everybody, smile to everybody. Don't talk ill of anybody. Look after the environment. If you see litter, pick it up, put it in the bin. Be discerning and concerning. Be as considerate as possible. Think of all these different ways. Meditate on all these different ways in which you can maintain your high frequency. Let's just meditate for a moment on these different ways in which we can assist our frequential level and maybe even assist in the frequential level of others. If you need to write it down, then do so. That's fine. Writing things down is an excellent way of jogging the memory, and is an excellent way of focusing ourselves on the task at hand. In this instance, what we can do to continue to maintain our high frequency. Okay. Now, a functional way of maintaining our high frequency is to open the chakras, doing the chakra opening exercises every day. Now, the chakras are normally open. They're normally in a state of function which is consistent with the amount of energy that we need to have to allow the soul, the smaller aspect of our higher self, so I like to call it the aspect rather than the soul, interact with the body from its soul seat just behind the heart chakra, or that location, through the interactive point called the core star, which is round the area of the Tantien, and the Tantien itself, which is the energetic junction where the soul can therefore, via the soul seat, through the core star to the Tantien, actually animate the body energetically. To enable us to animate the body, the energy templates that create the human form in its gross physical and spiritual physical state need to receive energies. And so as a result of this, we have energy receivers that we call chakras, or junctures, energy receivers that are specifically aligned to the energies and the frequential state of those energies associated with a particular energetic platform or energetic template associated with a particular frequential level. So the 7 energy templates have 7 groups of chakras. The vertical chakras, which are the crown chakra and the root chakra, just have one receiver of energy, one chakra. The horizontal chakras, the sacral, solar, heart, throat or spiritual or third eye, have 2 chakras, one pointing at the front and one pointing at the rear. And psycho-spiritually, they have a different function. The front chakras are our intention and the rear chakras are our action. So whatever we do with the front chakras, the rear chakras copy. Now, if they are asked to extend in their size and their length, which is around 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters, to a larger size, which is around 30 centimeters or 300 millimeters, and we ask them to rotate clockwise. They're already rotating clockwise to pull the energy in anyway. But if you ask them to rotate clockwise more in a larger state, they pull more energy in and they reinforce the energy templates that they're associated with. Of course, they make the auric layer, which is a waste product of the metabolization of energy from the energy templates receiving energy from the chakras. It reinforces the auric layer associated with it. We raise our frequencies to the level of the frequency associated with a chakra that is being asked to, by commanding it to extend and rotate, bring more energy in or accept more energy. So as we extend and rotate each of the chakras, we bring in more energy, we elevate our souls higher and higher. So let's open more the root chakra by asking it mentally to extend to its largest length, this 30 centimeters, and then ask it to rotate clockwise. Use your mentally spoken words to ask it to rotate clockwise. Its point of origin is where the 2 legs meet the lower body and it points down towards the ground. If you can visualize this, that's fine, but the mentally spoken word is universal. It is something that people who can visualize and people who can't visualize can do. And it still uses our intention, so it's still significantly powerful. And therefore, whatever we want to do, by using our attention in this way, by mentally vocalizing it, or quietly speaking with our physical and audible voice, then the command happens in a robust way and the chakra extends and rotates clockwise and we pull more energy in, energizing the energy template associated with it, and of course increasing the density of the waste product, which is the auric layer specific to that chakra and that energy template. So having used our mentally spoken word to extend and rotate the root chakra, let's ask the front sacral chakra, remembering the rear sacral chakra will copy, to extend to its largest size of around 30 centimeters, and then ask it to rotate clockwise. And this will bring us to the second frequential level. Now, as we rise to the frequencies, you might notice some physical things happening to you. You might notice that you start to have tingling in your hands or your arms or your body, or temperature changes within your body, or tinnitus in your right ear, or maybe the left ear. Usually it's the right ear, but it can be the left ear or both ears. So there's no right or wrong on this. It's just that the predominant ear is the right ear in this instance. Or you might see some different colours in your closed eye vision, and you might even feel pressure around the area of the spiritual or the third eye, which is in the same location physically, but not frequentially, as the spiritual or third eye chakra, in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. So just make a note of how your body is physically reacting to your sentience, your intention, asking the chakras to extend and rotate, elevating you up to the next frequential level. So the sacral chakra has its point of origin 7.5 centimeters below the belly button. So mentally ask it, or just with your quiet voice, to extend to its largest size, this 30 centimeters, and rotate clockwise. And this will elevate you to the second level. Okay, we use the same process with the solar chakra, whose point of origin is 7.5 centimeters above the belly button. Ask it to extend to its largest size, and ask it to rotate clockwise, and this will pull in more energy and elevate you to the third level. Third frequency level. Now let's do it again. Let's do it with the heart chakra, whose point of origin is at the center of the front of the chest, where the bony structure on the front of the rib cage that joins the left and right hand ribs together. Ask it to extend to its largest size, and ask it to rotate clockwise, and it will do so, and it will elevate us to the fourth level. Again, observe your body. You might find that the tingling is getting finer. You might be changing temperature from being cold to hot, or hot to hotter, or hot to cold. Or you might find that you're getting the feeling that there is energy flowing around your body, or flowing around the periphery of your skull, or maybe even that it feels like somebody's got their thumb pressurizing your brain in the same location as your spiritual or third eye. Just make a mental note of how your body's responding. Now let's go to the fifth level by asking our fifth chakra, the throat chakra, to extend from its point of origin to its largest size and rotate clockwise. Its point of origin being at the center of the front of the neck. And this will elevate us to the fifth level. Now let's go to the sixth level by asking our spiritual or third eye chakra to extend from its point of origin at the center of the front of the forehead, in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And in doing so, we elevate ourselves to the sixth level. And again, you might find that the way your body is physically responding is slightly different, or significantly different with some people at this level. If you're feeling nothing, don't worry. It's usually because you're a higher frequency anyway, and the difference in frequencies is not so marked, so to speak, not so different. Now let's use our mentally spoken word again, or quietly spoken physical word, to extend our crown chakra from its point of origin, the center of the top of the head, up towards the ceiling, and then ask it to rotate clockwise, and it will. And this will elevate us to the 7th level. So let's just stay at this 7th level for a moment and allow ourselves to absorb being at this level. Feel the enlightenment about increased levels of communicative bandwidth which we experience at this level. The feeling of joy at this level, the feeling of contentment at this level, the feeling of understanding at this level, the feeling of maturity at this level, the feeling of love at this level, the feeling of understanding everybody and loving them anyway at this level, the feeling of being or desire to be of service at this level. We'll stay here for a moment just to feel what it's like at this level. Now, it's good practice to close the chakras down, because you'll stay at this level anyway. If you close the chakras down to their normal function, which is basically the reverse of what we've done to open them, then you stay at this level for about 24 hours. If you don't close your chakras down, you stay at this level with the chakras working a little bit harder to pull energy in to keep it at that level, but eventually over about 48 hours they start to naturally slow down and naturally contract back to their point of origin. So don't worry if you open your chakras in the morning and then you forget to close them, or you think about it later in the day. But from our perspective, to maintain our high frequency by using a functional way of doing it, by opening the chakras, we're going to close them by using the reverse process. So we're going to use our mentally spoken word to ask the chakras to stop rotating as much and to contract back to their normal size in their normal point of origin. And this allows us to drop down the levels. Now there's going to be a residual level of frequency that we stay at, but that will slowly drop down again after around 24 to 48 hours. This is why I suggest that you practice it every day. Elevate your frequencies, maintaining your frequential status, and interacting with yourself energetically as a result of it. So ask your solar chakra to stop its rotation and to contract back into its point of origin at the center of the top of the head. Again, if you do have the benefit of visualizing, you can do so, but just mentally speaking it or speaking it quietly under your breath does the same job. And this will reduce you down to the 6th frequency level. Now we can do the same thing with the spiritual third eye chakra. Mentally ask it to stop its rotation and to contract back into its point of origin at the center of the front of the forehead, in between the 2 eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose, and this drops us down to the 5th frequency level. Now let's go to the 4th frequency level by mentally asking our 5th chakra, our throat chakra, to stop its rotation and to contract back into its point of origin to its normal size, which is at the center of the front of the neck. And this brings us down to the 4th level. Now let's go to the 3rd level by using the same process with the heart chakra. ask it to stop its rotation and to contract back into its point of origin and its normal size, which is at the center of the front of the chest, in the center of the sternum. And this brings us down to the third level. Now let's go to the second level by again repeating the process with the solar chakra. Mentally ask it to stop its rotation, to contract back into its point of origin, 7.5 centimeters above the belly button. And this brings us down to the second level. And now we can come to the first level by again repeating the process by mentally asking or speaking quietly that you're asking your sacral chakra to stop its rotation and to contract back into its point of origin, 7.5 centimeters below your belly button. And finally, you can come back down to the 0 level, as I like to call it, the earth level, by mentally asking your root chakra to stop its rotation, to contract back into its point of origin, which is where the two legs meet the lower body. And this will allow you to descend down to the same frequency as the earth, where you normally reside. Now, you'll be feeling a level of frequential maintenance as a result of this, so don't worry if you think you should feel exactly as you did before you started. So we'll just let ourselves feel this elevation caused by opening the chakras, even for a short period. Let's allow ourselves to feel this. Good, you should feel calmer. That's calm, not calmer. You should feel more self-aware, more enlightened, more at peace, more knowingness. And you would still have some form of physical feedback from being of a higher frequency. Again, if you forget to close the chakras in this way, don't forget closing them isn't closing them totally. It's bringing them down to their normal function. Think of it like a motor car's engine just ticking over as you're waiting to pull away from the lights. If you forget to close them, they close themselves down slowly over 48 hours, so don't worry too much. So slowly come back into the room where you are, slowly open your eyes and take a drink of water or tea or some non-alcoholic beverage, not sugar related though, to help ground you. And thank you for joining this meditation for this World Satsanga in June 2024. I look forward to working with you in July. Namaste to you all, and God's love to you all, and the Source's love to you all, of course. Did you see the aliens in Crete?